75-year-old man who told the police he was tired of life went on a killing rampage in a popular shopping street in central Tokyo on Sunday, plowing his truck into a crowd of pedestrians before stabbing passers-by with a survival knife. 7 people died and 11 were injured. The attack took place shortly after noon on a street that had been closed to vehicles for the day in Akihabara, the main district for electronics in Tokyo, and a magnet for fans of Japanese anime and manga comics. The killings stunned a country that has long enjoyed low crime rates, but where a series of random stabbings have recently occurred. The police identified the attacker as Tomohiro Kato, who was living by himself in a small apartment in Shizuoka, just west of Tokyo. According to reports in the Japanese news media, Mr. Kato told the police that he had grown tired of life, hated the world, and had gone to Akihabara to kill people. Anyone was okay, he told the police, according to the reports. Japanese television showed the police holding Mr. Kato on the ground after the attack. He was dressed in a black t-shirt, off-white trousers and jacket, and was wearing sneakers. The police said the attack began around 12:30 p.m., when Mr. Kato drove a white 2-ton rental truck into the street in a zigzag pattern, hitting several people. He then got out of the truck and began yelling and stabbing passers-by, including a police officer. Japanese television, displaying images captured on cell phones by witnesses, showed bodies scattered in the area. The authorities were seen trying to revive several victims. 6 men and 1 woman, ranging in age from 19 to 74, died, the authorities said. There is probably no marijuana-friendlier place in the country than here in Mendocino County, where plants can grow more than 15 feet high. Medical marijuana clubs adopt stretches of highway, and the sticky, sweet aroma of cannabis fills the city streets during the autumn harvest. Lately, however, residents of Mendocino County, like those in other parts of California, are wondering if the state's embrace of marijuana for medical purposes has gone too far. Medical marijuana was legalized under state law by California voters in 1996, and since then, 11 other states have followed, even though federal law still bans the sale of any marijuana. But some frustrated residents and law enforcement officials say the California law has increasingly and unintentionally provided legal cover for large-scale marijuana growers, and the problems such big-money operations can attract. It's a clear shield for commercial operations, said Mike Sweeney, 60, a supporter of both medical marijuana and a local ballot measure on June 3rd that called for new limits on the drug in Mendocino, and we don't want those here. The outcome of the ballot measure is not known, as votes are still being counted, but such community pushback is increasingly common across the state, even in the most liberal communities. In recent years, dozens of local governments have banned or restricted cannabis clubs, more formally known as dispensaries, that provide medical marijuana to patients. In the face of public safety issues involved in its sale and cultivation, including crime and environmental damage.
Now, as you know already, there will be a midterm exam next week. The exam will be an open book, open note, and open internet resource exam. But you can't use a classmate or mate during the exam. Many of the questions on this exam don't have definitive answers. I wish to assess your critical thinking ability and your ability to combine ideas. A poorly organized answer will not get the same grades as a well-organized answer. Here are some good ways to study for the exam. First of all, it would be better for you to organize and review your lecture notes. That means you may need to compile notes and lab test results if you have not done that already. I strongly suggest that you write trial outlines before the exam. I think it will make you feel more comfortable. Just stop by my office.
It's been a challenging decade for the music industry, with a significant decrease in sales. For years, little action was taken against illegal downloads, with few effects for downloaders. However, two new approaches are seeing positive results. Firstly, the industry is working with internet service providers to slow an illegal downloader's connection. Secondly, it's working directly with digital music websites. In Sweden, 3 out of 5 illegal file sharers have cut back or stopped, with half of these people moving to legal websites supported by advertisements.
We miscommunicate more commonly than we communicate accurately. Often the words we have are at least somewhat inadequate to express how we feel. The first words we think of are often poor reflections of what we really mean. We might at times even want to take our words back for a second attempt. But once those words have left our mouths, our partners are already replying to whatever we have just said. Most conversations happen too fast to allow us to figure out what we really meant to say.
People rarely translate another person's unique way of saying things with any degree of accuracy. This is because when we learn the meaning of words, we pick up their broad meanings, but we've added subtle shades of difference which we get from our own personal experiences. If you grew up in an aggressive household, the phrase, "I'm angry with you," had different associations than for a person from a family where people talked through problems. We're left having to work out meaning from our own experience. So, despite the fact that, say, Bob and Gina are both speaking English, Bob is really speaking Bob English, and Gina is turning that into Gina English, and the translation is never going to be perfect. We'll look now at a very interesting study. It was carried out by a researcher who works in 2 countries, Scotland and Italy, and it involved children from both of these countries aged around 9 or so. Half of the children from each country spoke only their national language. However, the other half spoke their national language plus another language. During the study, all the participants were given tests and quizzes which looked at a range of skills, including vocabulary understanding, problem solving, creative thinking, and arithmetic. The children used their national language to complete the tasks, which involved things like copying patterns of coloured blocks, orally repeating a series of numbers, and giving clear definitions of words. The results were quite clear. The bilingual children were significantly more successful in the tasks.
A really good illustrative example of the point I want to make is the book Journey Cake Ho by Ruth Sawyer, based on a traditional folk tale. Teachers often read this aloud to their classes, showing the pictures to the children as they do so. They are, of course, using the words of Ruth Sawyer and presenting the story just as the artist has visualized it. But other teachers do it differently. Instead of reading, they tell the story from memory. This gives the children a much richer experience. They can freely use their own imaginations, visualizing the story, the characters, and the scenes in their mind's eye in any way they like. And this is much closer to the way in which folk tales were passed from generation to generation, orally, without any words or pictures to restrict the imagination.
The role of family in society. Families are always related to the economy, the politics, the culture of the society. In herding societies, young people go out when they're 10 or 12 years old, and they hang out with the sheep or the goats, or whatever the herd is. That produces a kind of a loose bond between the pre-adolescents and their parents. In industrial societies, we tend to keep kids in school for longer, and then college is that point when they might break, or after college, depending on what they're doing. In agrarian societies, families have lots of kids and put them to work. They structure themselves as large families and put them all together in one home. The main point is that families are not separate from the society. Families and the economy and the politics are all wrapped up all together.
So a lot of the research on happiness starts with the basic question, how happy are you? And we're psychologists, so tell us on a scale of 1 to 10, where 5 is average, 10 is super duper. The most common answers, interestingly enough, are high. They're 7 or 8. It turns out that most people think that they're pretty happy. This question has been asked all over the world, and it turns out that there are slight differences depending on how old you are. There are slight differences depending on your place within a country. California versus New York. There are slight, subtle differences between men and women at different points. Somewhat paradoxically, although women are more vulnerable to depression than men, still, on average, women are slightly happier than men.